This video was made possible by the EA Creator Network. Hello everyone. Welcome on in. I'm Velvet and thanks for joining me today in The Sims 4 for another speed build. And I appreciate you being here today. Thank you very much. You can help me out with a little bit of a subscribe down there, a like, a comment, all of those wonderful things. Always helps me out as a creator, and you know what? I appreciate it every time, so thank you. Today we are building something magical. And this is a lovely magical market. You know what? This is also something a little different because it's part of a collaboration that I took part in, and it's run by Just Para and Rainbow Cat Mum, and it's the Glimmerbrook Moonwood Mill collab, and I'm doing something in Glimmerbrook. And what we're doing is basically we're recreating those two worlds, reimagining those two worlds, and yeah, I'm creating a magical market. So the idea behind this magical market is that it has like a whole lot of different shops that you can purchase in, and it is a retail lot. So it's set up as a retail lot, so you can just kind of put it down and go shopping. That's the idea. So I had to kind of figure out a few things about what I could sell and what I couldn't sell. It ended up being that I needed to change something along the way as well, because I didn't realize that you couldn't sell the potions, and I set up a potion shop and I was just like, I couldn't sell them. So I was like, oh no, I have to do something else. So I think I ended up turning my potion shop into a cauldron shop. So that was basically the only thing I ended up needing to change. And funnily enough, the cauldron shop is actually this shop here. So I decided I'd put like a little like underground open basement area, and under there would be like the cauldron, so that, you know, Sims could go in there and yeah, make their potions, make some mac and cheese, do some experimenting, you know, all that sort of thing. So yeah. the 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 market itself, I didn't want to lean into, like, it is a magical market. Like you can buy magical things there, but I didn't want to go like super magical with it, if that makes sense. I wanted to give it more of a almost like a medieval market feel, but with a touch of magic to it. So it's not like overly magical in the sense that there's going to be lots of things floating around. And this is just kind of like a thing that I had to work out as I was creating it, how I was going to balance that out and create like the essence of magic in here and make it about selling magical things without it being super magical, with things floating around. And I could have gone in that direction as well, and there would have been nothing wrong with that at all. It's just the direction I wanted to go was just like a little bit more sort of medieval-ish or sort of old school kind of market, but with magical touches. So I feel like I got there with a little bit of mucking around here and there. I managed to get there in the end, in terms of, I feel like, getting that balance right, and also getting like the shape of the buildings right, where they were going to sit and how I was going to get that flow of that little space working. When I sort of was thinking about a medieval market, I just had this kind of a vision of like the market stalls or the market stores, kind of like around in a half circle, and there's like a big fountain in the middle, and like, so there's like a big open social area, and then like each of the buildings has the different market in it, all the different items that they sell. So, you know, it's overall a big retail store, and you can just basically go through there, browse, and buy all your little things. So it should work. I did play test it and it worked, so it should be good to go. Now, the stores that we have in this magic market are, let me see if I can remember. So we talked about the fact that the potion store ended up turning into a cauldron store because I couldn't sell potions. And it's really weird because you can sell the other debug items with the Realm of Magic pack, but you couldn't sell potions. Disappointing. But you know what? We move on. We make adjustments. So there is a potion store. There is a wand store. There's a bookstore. There's a knick-knack store. There's a crystals and ore store. And uh, did I say? Oh, a broomstick store. There's public toilets. And did I say bookstore? Yeah, I did say bookstore. So I think that's all of them, from what I can remember. Sounds about right. It's definitely all those. So it's like the little each of the different buildings have different things in it. So it's quite fun. And there's like a one building that's just basically the front or the till. So you can have your sim sort of manning that section of it all, and they can just man the desk or do what they're going to do, and have their employees running around and selling and that sort of thing. So there's like a little section down the bottom right in the middle. That middle section there is going to be where you can sell your goods from, and then like the customers can wander around and go in all the different buildings and all the different stores and buy all the little different things. It is. I think it would be quite an interesting challenge to run this as a retail store where you've got to run around and sell to each of the different customers in the different areas. I actually think it would be fairly challenging from that perspective. But you can also have it in your game and just go and visit and buy stuff as it's a retail store. Somebody else runs it. It's easy peasy, isn't it? So it did take me a little bit of figuring out how I kind of wanted to get like the aesthetic happening for these buildings and how I was going to kind of make that work. The problem that I was having with those little overhanging awnings from Cottage Living was that the wooden corbel bits were kind of sticking down into the doorway. So that's why I ended up changing that and changing it to a roof because of those, just when I resized it, it wasn't quite sitting right or, whatever. And just had these sticky down bits that sort of hung down into the doorway, which I thought not quite ideal, right? Oh, and the interesting thing with this, I didn't go full medieval with it because, magical touches. So I added things like the railing that came with Realm of Magic, which is quite a, rich, fancy kind of railing. And, we've got like little magical things through the middle, like I add the portal that you get that takes you through to the magical headquarters where you do your training and blah blah blah. So there's a magic portal and things like that. But I didn't go too deep on in terms of the magical stuff. I just wanted like little tiny elements. So one of the little elements that I had, and it's not like a particularly magical element, but it's an element that you probably wouldn't find in the style of village, and I just sort of like leaned into the Realm of Magic pack with it, and that's just the railing and the fencing that I decided to use because I thought that would be something a little different. So that's the direction I went with it. The styling itself, I definitely leaned hard into the Get Together pack. I just, if you're going to go sort of the medieval styling, I feel like the Get Together, because it's sort of Tudor, right? But the Tudor can like lend itself to something like a little bit older, which is more the medieval sort of style. But it lends itself into that styling so well. So that was the pack to go for. It actually, I can look this up, but I ended up going, I think, limited pack with this build as well. So I didn't use like a whole giant assortment of packs. Let me find it. Magic Market. Okay, what did I use? I used Enchanted by Nature, Life and Death, Cottage Living, Snowy Escape, Get Together and Get to Work, Werewolves, Realm of Magic, Strangerville, Jungle Adventure, Vampires, and that's it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 packs out of, I don't know how many build buy packs are there, about 80. So yeah. So it is actually technically a limited pack. It really is. It's not like, a couple of packs or anything like that, but it is limited pack. So it should be fairly accessible up on the gallery. And, it's amazing how the roofing, just simply changing the color of the roofing, just adds to the richness and vibrancy of the build. I mean, I feel like pre-roof versus post-roof, the difference in the color and the feel and the warmth of the build just is like, it's very different, even though it was like the one thing that I sort of just changed there. So I did like little different things with the roofs. I just kind of got a little bit of experimental thing going on there. I added like things on an angle. I added like little sticky out sort of bits, and the dormers from Enchanted by Nature, added those in as well. So yeah, lots of little different, things and bits and pieces that I thought, just add a decorative element. And again, just sort of, not just kind of leaning away a little bit from the whole medieval idea and just adding that, that extra sort of fantasy element. That's actually a good way to put it. The fantasy elements. So that's the fencing. That's like the dormers and bits and pieces around the place. So yeah, that fantastical element to it, and like the dueling kind of circle thing that you have there. That's around the back. So yeah, all of those little fantasy elements that I think, and when you're thinking about fantasy as a concept, I mean, it can be fantasy can be many things, but a lot of the time when you're like reading fantasy books and that sort of thing, they're quite often set in a world where it isn't high tech and it is, a lot more like, it really does depend on the type of fantasy, but a little bit more medieval in nature because you have your kings and your queens and your lords and your horses and knights and all sorts of things like that, because it goes back to a time where you do have to rely on different things, or maybe you throw in the magical element and you sort of lean away from the technology side of things, right? So yeah, I'm not saying it's a blanket all for fantasy, but you get what I'm saying, right? That fantastical element of it all. It did take me quite a while to actually figure out how I wanted to do the landscaping with this. So I kind of started out with putting lots of little bits and different pieces in. I think I pulled back a bit from it because I think initially I kind of had the idea of having the low-lying bushes kind of going like all the way around, and then I sort of like changed my mind and decided to do like little patches of mushrooms and grasses and ferns, and I sort of leaned away from the flowers a little bit more. I did add some flowers in, but I kind of leaned away from that a little bit more. And then there's a side of the opposite side of actually where we are at the moment, and then that sort of has like some pathways going through and under the trees, which I think is really cool. There will be some differences between the version that you're seeing me build and the final version that is up on the gallery. The reason for that is that as I was building it, I didn't realize that Rainbow, who is touring the collab, didn't have Adventure Awaits. So there is Adventure Awaits included in the version that you see me build, and then I had to take Adventure Awaits out post build because I realized that I was not supposed to be using that pack. So oops, my bad. As you do, but it's like, it just didn't occur to me that Rainbow didn't have it. I didn't think about it. So that was my bad. So whoopsies. So yeah, there is some Adventure Awaits stuff that you will see around the place that doesn't make the final cut just because I needed to take it out. So I think it was just like a sign, and it was like some wallpaper on the towers. That was basically about it. So I didn't end up using like a lot of it anyway. It's just it happened to be in a couple of places around the build that is fairly noticeable, which is the towers and the big sign in the middle of the fountain area, which is possibly not there actually at the moment. But that was the area that I was talking about with the paths coming through and under the tree. So I did like I think a little bit of seating. Did I put a barbecue in there? I don't think I did. I think I just did seating around there. I just wanted to have like a cute little, congregation area that maybe they have like a, private moment. Maybe they just want to have a nice cool hangout under the trees. I mean, I think it'll be fun to sit under the trees and you're surrounded by nature and the birds are chirping in the trees and, it sounds lovely to me. I don't know. So I think that's about done with the landscaping. I did skip over a bit of the landscaping in terms of this video because there was quite a bit of it. Like it took me a while just to fluff around and get it all down. The lot that this is on, so this is the Rock Ridge Canyon lot, I believe. Hang on, let me just double check that. Let's load. Okay, yes, it's the Rock Ridge Canyon lot, and it's 40 by 30 lot. So it's a good size lot, good size retail space. So I think you should be able to have like a lot of Sims there doing their things. And yeah, I added in some flowers with these planters. I thought that would be quite cute. And I decided that I wanted to add like a little balcony area onto this front section just to create a little bit less space like through the middle there and fill a little gap that we had. Signage took a little bit of fluffing around with different packs just to find some signage that I liked for this. It was a little bit limited in terms of what I felt I could choose, but there were bits and pieces that I could hang up around the place and it made it work. there's a lot of signage that's for like coffee and cafes and that sort of thing, which is cool because it's great when you're making a cafe. But I didn't want to put a cafe in this because it was strictly a retail store. And I mean, I could have gone in two directions with this, which could have been like as a small business venue, and then you could have had like cafes, and you could have had like different things that you could do. But I decided that it would be a lot more straightforward. This is the Adventure Awaits sign that I ended up taking down. I couldn't decide where it was going to go. the the I could have gone in a couple of directions, but I felt like the just going a straight up retail lot, which I haven't built in a long, long time. I think the last retail lot I built was a Winterfest lot. Winterfest lot, which sounds weird. It was a Winterfest shop. So that was the last thing I'd kind of built as a retail store, and it was actually quite fascinating to go back in time and do a retail store because it's not something I really spend a lot of time playing with in the game as a retail store. So not these days, anyway. Oh, and this took me a little while just to figure out how I wanted to do these lights as well, because I was thinking like some cute lights, and these are the lights from Life and Death. And I thought some cute lights hanging around the place would be adorable for like nighttime shopping. So I was determined to have some sort of like really fun hanging lights kind of going through the village. But yeah, it did take a little bit of figuring out just to work out how to angle them, because they are a little, yeah. I mean, they're a fixed size, right? I mean, you can size them down and stuff. So but to be able to mix and match them and have them sitting around the place, you kind of got to have them all the same size, and then you've just got to fiddle around with what the flow of the lights is going to be. So that was interesting. It took me a little while to figure that out. The clock tower that we're working on at the moment, that is empty, so there's nothing actually in that tower. It was just simply just a clock tower. It's not a functional sort of thing. I love these rooftoppers here, the ones from Life and Death. They're just so striking, and again, it's just bringing that fantastical element, because I felt like these matched the fences and the what are they? Banisters. The fences and the stair thingies. Getting technical again, aren't I? So I felt like they matched that, and just bringing that richness to the market, and again, just like that slightly fantastical element, because this is not something that you would have in a medieval market, right? All that sort of gold hanging around. So that sort of lends itself towards that sort of fantasy element. I didn't go overboard with the ivy on the exterior of the buildings. I just kept that fairly simple, without doing too much. I didn't feel like it needed like heaps of ivy running up it or anything like that. Just like little touches here and there. And yeah, just I think I did some greenery on the outside. No, now this I was playing around with. I I did say that I wasn't going to do the whole glowy thing, and it's because I did this glowy thing that I realized I did not want to do the glowy thing. If that makes sense. So I was playing around with like adding a lot more of the magical elements to the build. So I've got the glowing portal. I'm using the debug glowy items from Realm of Magic, the little pedestal light holder things from Realm of Magic debug as well. So I did sort of play around with having like glowy sections around the place. And when I stepped back and looked at it, I just felt like it was just really moving away from the vibe of the market that I had, and it just wasn't sitting right with me. So you will see those disappear at some point, because it just didn't sit right with me. I left the portal. I'm pretty sure I'd get rid of them. Anyway, I definitely left the portal. I'm just thinking whether or not I got rid of the little pedestal lights. Not sure. May have kept those. But anyway, I got rid of a whole lot of the glowy lights anyway, because I put them around in different places. And I just left the portal and just tried to keep it like a little bit more simple, because I felt like I was going to get into the area of overdoing it. So I didn't want to go down that route. I wanted to keep it, a little bit more, less obvious. If that makes sense. A little bit more less obvious. So this is the first of the shop that I'm creating here. Now this is the potion shop, so this will change. And I did spend like a bit of time on it as well, because I sort of went around and dug into debug and found a whole lot of different potions and got it all set up the way that I liked. And then I realized, as I was playtesting the retail aspect of it, that I could not actually set them up to sell as a retail item. Oops. Good to know though, if you ever plan on doing a magical shop like I did in the retail sense, potions are not the thing for you. Okay, you can sell the wands, you can sell the broomsticks, you can sell books, you can sell crystals, you can sell knickknacks, you can do all sorts of things, but apparently we cannot retail sell the potions. So there you go. Lesson learned. New. So that will change into a cauldron shop. I'm not sure whether or not that's on camera, but I know that it will definitely be a cauldron shop. And then this is our wand shop. The interesting conundrum I had with this and with all of the shops was just deciding on the furnishings that I wanted to use and how I was going to present the goods, because the vibe between Get to Work, which is the pack that came with all the retail items, versus the actual market itself were very different. So in terms of the retail selling selling pedestals and things like that, I couldn't really use the Get to Work stuff because it just, like, the vibe wise they were just not quite the right vibe. So I kind of had to work with what I had from Realm of Magic, really, in terms of presenting stuff that would be furniture that I could put stuff on to sell. So that's why I'm sort of leaning into the desks and the tables and the end tables, or the bars, as the case may be, and things like that. So that's why I went that direction rather than like the more traditional retail pedestals and tables and bits and pieces, just because they had like a little bit more of a modern aspect versus the more older traditional style that I ended up going with. And I think that was a good decision. I did use, like, a few of the Enchanted by Nature tables as well, which I think worked. Oh, the other one, this is the Crystal Ball shop, and familiar orbs and that sort of thing. So that was the other shop that I forgot. I knew I'd forgotten a shop, and I could not for the life of me remember which one it was. But this one, it's like the Crystal Ball / familiar shop, and yeah. So that's what this one is here. So that's all the familiar orbs, and then did I use any crystal balls? Maybe I didn't use crystal balls. Maybe it's just all familiar orbs. Looking at this. That would make sense. Familiar orb shop. There we go. So, yeah, and because I was doing this limited pack, the other thing that I did struggle with a bit was just finding the right decorations for the stores that would work. So, yeah, there was a challenge in that as well. I mean, I didn't technically have to do this limited build. When I have the opportunity I like to, because I know that makes it a lot more accessible for people to download from the gallery if they're so inclined. So I do try to be a little bit more thoughtful about about using all of my packs, but sometimes I just want to use all my packs. I didn't in this case, but sometimes I do, and it's just it is what it is. But I do think about it and do make a conscious decision to sometimes build limited pack builds so I can create things that are a little bit more accessible for people. Now this is upstairs, and this is the bookstore. So what I found quite interesting with this, just let me think. So when I was playtesting, what happened? Oh. No, nothing particularly happened, actually. No, what I found was quite interesting with this was that I had a certain amount of books that I could stack up. So it was a matter of just, like, trying to spread those out. And then, because selling books flat is kind of like, boring. Like, I want to have them, like, tilted up and leaning on something. But I think I tried to make them all, that's what it was. I tried to make them all magical books. Like, I didn't want to sell regular books in this bookshop. I wanted it to be a magical bookshop, and it is a magical bookshop. So it was just like, it was a very limited selection for things that were available that were leaning up. Otherwise, it was just going to be all the flat books. So yeah, I did think about presentation of the books. Now, part of this is because I spent a good chunk of my retail career working in bookshops. So presenting books is a thing that does kind of come naturally to me, and it is something that I think about. And I've spent a lot of years working in retail. So how you present goods in a retail store is just one of those things that is just, like, kind of ingrained in my brain. And, like, putting things down flat on a table is just one of the things you don't want to be doing unless you're stacking up clothes, right? For a bookstore, No, it's not ideal. You want to be up on an angle and, you know, showing off the book and the cover and, you know, having a nice healthy stick in behind there so people can pick it up and buy it, you know, things like that. Anyway, sometimes I get caught up in the realism of things, and I just have to kind of take a step back from it and just say, you know what, it is The Sims. There's a certain point where you have to say, you know, this is as much realism as I can do, and then the rest will just have to hope for the best. So this is the bathrooms, and this is in the second upstairs building. So the bathroom is actually upstairs. I kept it pretty simple. Like, it's a fairly large bathroom, and I did put in a shower, like the shower bath combo. The reason I put that in is because in case they're like mixing potions or they've been doing like, you know, dueling, magical dueling or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe they just get a bit grotty. Some just seem to get themselves pretty grotty pretty quickly. If you're not paying attention to them, you turn away for a minute, and then all of a sudden they're like green stink lines coming out, green smoke coming out of them everywhere, and they're very stinky. So it doesn't take much. So I put a shower in just for practical purposes for playing in it, because you know the Sims be Sims. It is what it is, but it's a nice large bathroom area, and it should be very very user friendly for a public community lot. Anyway, I feel like, and just again, just leaning into using the Realm of Magic fixtures, so the bathroom fixtures and the counters, because you know what, I really like that set. The Realm of Magic bathroom set is really nice, and it was nice to use it. Oh, that was the other thing I used. Adventure Awaits was that rug. I just remembered it, seeing it go down there, and I was like, oh, that's an Adventure Awaits rug right there. So this is underneath the bathroom, and this is actually the counter area. So I just put like a bar in behind there. I thought, you know what, you can just sort of have some, you know, yeah, potions and, you know, doodads on there, and put some stuff up on the walls. I kept this area pretty simple because it's like a functional, you know, people are going to be coming in and out of the area. I didn't want to, you know, have anything sort of blocking anything. It was just, you know, fairly functional with some pretty features. And it's a small space anyway. There wasn't too much to be, you know, done with it besides, you know, a few little pretty things. But you should be able to sell your goods from there, so that's the main point. That was our dueling area. Oh, yeah, I needed to add a little bit to this exterior area. So you can only get to the dueling area through the... Oh, that's going to be the knick-knack shop, actually. I think. Or is it the one shop? I think it might be the one shop. Okay, so you can only kind of get through that shop, whatever the shop is. No, because that's the knick-knack. No, that's the wand shop in there. No, broomstick shop. I knew what it was in my head, and I'm just saying the wrong word. The broomstick shop, and then the next one over is the knick-knack shop. So yeah, broomstick, knick-knacks. So anyway, broomsticks. So the broomsticks are all sort of like your Realm of Magic debug items that you can sort of purchase and fly around on and do different things with. So it was actually an interesting just challenge working out how to present these these broomsticks. I keep calling them wands. What is wrong with me? Very different things. One's a transport item, okay? Velvet. Yeah, it was quite interesting. So I used those little half walls. I thought they were a good way, and by making them clear, it meant that like it didn't feel like the whole shop was blocked off by them. So you could sort of still see through the walls, and you had them there to be able to present the broomsticks, but yeah, you were still able to kind of see through them, and it didn't feel like it was all enclosed and blocked off because of those walls. So I'm just doing the exterior sort of seating area. It's not a cafe or anything. It's just like a seating congregation area, and that actual shop is going to be the crystal / metal ores, you know, shop. But before we get there, we've got to go here, and that's the knick-knack shop. So I wanted to go through and just find some, you know, kind of magical like knickknacks, and there's a few of them in the game, so it was kind of like a good shop to have, you know, like pretty decorative things. So these are like the little mushroom display thing from Werewolves, and then there was like little bits and pieces from Jungle Adventure, which were quite good, I think. Oh no, did I do too much in those? Because they were all like really goldy. Don't think I did. But I did dig into like the werewolf artifacts and things like that. So anything I felt like I could sell that was like knick-knacky and sort of slightly supernaturally, I just kind of grabbed. There wasn't a whole heap, but there was enough there to fill a shop, and I thought that was like a cute idea, and it's the kind of thing I feel like you would have in a market, right? Like these little knick-knacks that, you know, you could sort of bring home, cute little decorative things to make your house look pretty. And of course, like, you know, if it's a vampire coming shopping here, they're going to want to look for their urn options. You know, the vampire loves a good urn, right? I feel like a lot of vampires do anyway. And the contrast color that I used around the place a lot was a lot of blues. So you'll see a lot of blues going around here because I felt like, you know, the blues with the browns and the stones and, you know, that sort of thing worked quite nicely. So sort of blues and greens and different colors, but blues and greens mainly. So we are moving on to the very last shop, which is, as I said, the crystals and ores shop. So it's just a matter of going through and finding them. It would be, honestly, it would be so much easier to find things in the game if they were under the same name for the same kind of item. Like it was crystal, and then it would have like what that crystal is. Crystal, jet, crystal, diamond, crystal, blah, blah, blah. That would make life so much easier. But and that is not how the game is set up. So you've kind of got to scroll through. And to find like the different crystals from the different packs, because the crystals and stuff are all through the different packs. So you've got to scroll all the way through and find them from the different packs and spread them out and display them and do what you're going to do. And yeah, it takes a little bit more work than you think it's going to. Anyway, I'm going to leave you guys to tours because this is the very last build area. I'm going to go tour it and you can see how it finally ended up. I want to say a big thank you for watching, and remember, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for me. Much appreciated. You guys have a fabulous day, and I will catch you next time around. Bye-bye.